Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. This community will remember one of its most philanthropic citizens at a memorial service this weekend. Whitney Harris passed away not quite a month ago, but left behind a rich legacy of generosity and commitment to his adopted community. His philanthropy was widespread as he donated generously to fields that interested him most: education, science, the arts, and the law. Harris was a lawyer who won fame for prosecuting Nazis at Nuremberg as a Navy officer after World War II. But when the proceedings were over, he wanted to put the memory behind him.
I didn't want to think about anything related to the trial of these people. That was a closed chapter. In fact, I had my career, and I followed that, and I just put Nuremberg away. I only respond now when I'm asked to, like now. I don't like to think about these things.
His name has been associated with his generosity since. I'm Don Marsh. We'll pay tribute to the life and legacy of Whitney Harris today with a number of people who are beneficiaries of his friendship and his generosity. With me in studio is Professor Layla Sadat, Professor of Law and Director of the Whitney R. Harris World Law Institute at Washington University. Patrick Osborne directs the Whitney R. Harris World Ecology Center at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with me in studio today. Nice to have you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Professor Sadat, Layla, if I may, let me begin with you. I think that your presence here, the two of you, really reflects the diversity of Whitney Harris's interests.
It does, although I think there's perhaps a unifying theme, which is he really cared about the planet and the planet's survival and the human beings on the planet's survival. And he saw all of us, animals, plants, and humans, as interconnected.
Yes, I certainly think he saw the connections between peace and justice and human rights and the condition of our environment. And I think some of the major cases of genocide have had some sort of environmental component to them. Whether it's a major cause or not is obviously up to debate, but certainly there are linkages between the things that most interested him, which is obviously the human rights and the environment.
Both of you are associated with organizations, institutions that bear his name, as do many in this community, but he was all over the place with his generosity. Layla, tell us something about, you've been on the program before, but for those who didn't catch your last appearance here, tell us about the Institute and his commitment to it.
Well, the Harris World Law Institute is a division of Washington University School of Law. We have a large international council that guides and directs our activities, as well as a faculty advisory board, and we focus primarily on building the rule of law and a more peaceful and just world. Our biggest initiative right now is we're actually in the process of drafting and completing a Crimes Against Humanity Convention that became public about 2 months ago at the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., and we hope to take to the United Nations and actually create one of the last living instruments of the Nuremberg legacy.
Tell us about his association with it. It carries his name with the impetus, his.
Oh, well, Whitney was always a very generous patron. He never tried to interfere at all with the workings of the Institute. But obviously, if I went to him with a program and said, Whitney, I'm thinking about this, I could get his feedback. Did he think it was a good idea? And he was always ready to lend his assistance and his good name. And that meant a lot to the Institute because his good name had an international resonance, if you like. And so when we were connecting with people all over the world on this particular initiative and on other work that we've been doing, the fact that Whitney R. Harris was willing to speak and testify to the importance of the work we were doing was very instrumental to our success.
And he was passionate, of course, about this whole area of genocide, war crimes, that sort of thing, going all the way back to Nuremberg, of course.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to me, the little extract that you began with, because Whitney was far from a passive observer. I mean, he was in the Rome Conference in 1998 leading the Committee of Former Nuremberg Prosecutors. He was very, very active in the Chautauqua dialogues, again, bringing the former Nuremberg prosecutors as well as all the living current prosecutors together. He was far from sitting on the sidelines. He was very actively involved and very committed to international justice.
And from your side of it, Patrick Osborne?
Yes, the Whitney R. Harris World Ecology Center was formed 20 years ago, and in fact, Whitney Harris was involved at the ground floor. He attended a meeting in 1989 that actually discussed the formation of our centre. And at that time, it was called the International Centre for Tropical Ecology. And it was formed as a relationship between the University of Missouri St. Louis, the Missouri Botanical Garden, and the St. Louis Zoo. And now we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. And Whitney, as I say, has been a wonderful supporter of the centre throughout the time. He served on the Harris Council ever since its inception and has just been an incredible supporter. And then in 2006, he made a very generous gift to the university that resulted in the change of the name to the Whitney R. Harris World Ecology Centre. The centre has a focus on graduate education, and we bring in students from all over the world, particularly from Central South America. We've had students from Madagascar, from Papua New Guinea, from Bhutan, from the Congo, and other countries in Africa and Southeast Asia, Australia, even some countries in Europe as well. And so it is a very worldly centre in that sense, and it's through our collaboration with the Missouri Botanical Garden and the St. Louis Zoo that we're able to support a very large group of graduate students from all over the world. And the nice thing is these students then return to their home countries and they contribute, either as professors in local universities or leaders in non-governmental organizations that are involved in conservation of the environment. So it's a wonderful legacy.
If you would, I'll ask each of you, and I'll begin with you, Patrick, if I may. Just give me a thumbnail sketch of the man, Whitney Harris the man. How do you think of him?
Well, I think the first thing that struck me when I saw Whitney before I even met him was his wonderful posture and the way he was such an upright figure. And that's a wonderful word for him because he really is an upright gentleman and did an enormous amount for his local community. He was incredibly supportive, incredibly generous. But also he was completely lacking in conceit, and he had achieved so much in his life, published so much, worked in so many different areas, that he never boasted about that, and he always really was there to help people.